Welcome everyone to another set of StarCraft 2 professional matches. Once again, we have Korea versus Korea from the Open Cup on the Korean server. And it is this time going to be Zest versus GuMiho, a best of 5 for the finals of, I think, the 110th Open Cup on the Korean server. In the bottom left, already sending out a probe, we do have DPG's Zest. And in the top right for Storm Gaming, he is GuMiho. My last best of series was GuMiho versus Beyond of the same tournament, and GuMiho was able to take a 2-1 victory in a TVT. I do believe he then eventually went on to face Hero and beat Hero there as well in a best of 3. Now he faces Zest in a finals. Zest, not a stranger to Open Cup finals. He's actually been even in North American Open Cup finals. He is a beast when it comes to participating in online tournaments. He seems to be trying to get every tournament under his belt before he goes to military, whenever that is. He's still uncertain, but he is going to Katowice, so that's really cool. One of the reasons I chose this one to cast as well. On top of the fact that I like GuMiho, on top of the fact that I love Zest, on top of the fact that I think PvT is really a cool matchup, and just there's so many reasons why I would think this is a really cool series to cast. Now, we do have, as I was pointing out, an interesting opener from Zest, very quick on the Probe Scout. Apparently was just legitimately a Probe Scout, and that's not too surprising considering that GuMiho, very well known, especially in this matchup, to be a trickster. And especially because Terrans are more so pushing the trickster aspect of StarCraft 2. They're doing things like proxy barracks, again, proxy starports, well, I guess never really fell out of fashion. Of course, they're still there. Fake factory expands have really come in, as well as legitimate factory expands. So getting a scout against Terran nowadays as early as possible, well, makes sense. It's what Protoss usually does anyways. A super quick scout against a guy like GuMiho might make even more sense. Unfortunately for Zest, he does have to deal with the engineering bay block. Realized perhaps a bit too late that it was happening, so he didn't get the option of pulling the probes. Or maybe he really just didn't want to go for the probe pull. If you see it happening, of course, put your probe on the SCV, make sure it starts dying while it's building, and then you can pull, I think, 3 to 4 probes down, again, if you see it immediately. And you'll get it canceled pretty quickly. Quick enough to be worth it. Anything longer, however, and trying to kill it without a zealot, trying to stop your build and wait for the Nexus is just very awkward. So either you take a Nexus elsewhere, or you do more of a one-base-centric focus like Zest has done. So we actually even got a proxy pylon, perhaps thought better of using it. It's actually a very odd proxy pylon, and then went for a Stargate on one base. So I think there has been changes in the mind. I don't think Zest was actually planning on this being the game, this being the opener of this map. But what I think he's doing now, after deciding, you know what, no, I'm not going to do a proxy gateway, I'm not going to do a gateway counter, I'm not going to do payback, those are only 2 things I can really think of. A proxy Stargate actually might have also been in mind. No, I'm just going to play macro here. That's fine with me. So he turns an odd situation into what is going to look like a very normal build in 2 or 3 minutes, which is Oracle first into Twilight Council with Blink. So it's almost like a Blink build, except that you do get that extra scouting, vision, and harassment from the Oracle, but it's the only thing you afford from the Stargate. So it's definitely a little bit odd. You got to make sure not to get supply blocked in a lot of these types of situations, and your build won't exactly line up like you've practiced 1,000 times over and over. But since Zest plays approximately 10,000 StarCraft 2 games a month, that is, I'm definitely exaggerating, guys, just in case you think that might be possible. Oh no! That sucks. Yeah, he's probably dealt with a similar situation often enough. GuMiho able to snap that Oracle at the Widow Mine. That is painful to Zest, who really doesn't want to commit to another Oracle. He can't even afford to commit to another Oracle. And if he does choose to do so, he is lacking now a Stalker, which might not sound like that big of a deal, but depending on really what his choice is afterwards, what his fears are, what his hopes are after the fact, can be a big deal. If he's afraid that GuMiho is about to push him, for instance, then he wants to go ahead and chrono out that Blink and get so many Stalkers that he can start tearing down Marines. If he's wanting to do a little bit of a Marine stalker pressure, a stalker pressure of his own, then he wants to, again, crank out those stalkers. And it seems to be definitely what he's focusing on. But I will point out something else. This is a little bit interesting. He does choose to focus on the stalkers and get a Dark Shrine. Okay, then. He hasn't actually gotten a Robo. This cannot turn into that powerful of a stalker pressure. So it's 3 gateways instead of 2, so it wasn't really supposed to be towards a faster third nexus. That's usually the intent of the gateway count. That's what it shows us. 2 macro, 3 in between, 4 gate blink all in. But without a Robo, you're kind of like, well, okay, that's a lot of stalkers, but can they really do a whole lot of damage? I mean, the answer is kind of yes. I mean, if the SCVs aren't pulled, Bunker could fall. If the SCVs are pulled, SCVs could fall. Still have the blink micro, but I'm a little surprised that he emphasized the stalkers. I wonder if he was actually afraid initially and then decided, you know what, actually, let's just attack. Let's just attack. And Zest, well, he does like being the attacker. He's going to lose a couple of probes to the Liberator, but he is still microing pretty well on the front lines. Stim is not done for GuMiho, and that's what Zest is trying to take advantage of. The fact that Marines do not beat out Stalkers without that Stim, at least if you are microing correctly. But once Stim is done, oops daisy, there you have it. Zest loses all of his Stalkers, not realizing that Stim was so close to finishing. And that is that. GG. Zest loses out on game 1. A very odd game 1. I do feel like he was constantly changing his interactions. But, sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. Move on to game 2 of this best of 5.